themselves the Elite.
If not us, who?
A little bit of the bubbly.
And if not now, when?
We don't care about race or gender or sex or religion. If you're an elite athlete, we want you.
This is an official declaration of war.
Change the world.
We are going to change the whole universe!
This is what you call a paradigm shift.
This is a family! This is a revolution! We can never stop!
All Elite Wrestling!
For the 30th time, it's Friday morning. And you know what that means. It's time for the next chapter of the only professional wrestling podcast that is changing the world every week. This is Seeing the Elite, an AEW podcast. I am your host, Bryce Reed. I am joined by my friend, my co-host, my tag team partner, Mr. Jonathan Davis.
What's up, dude?
This is... Fuck.
30.
I fucked it all up.
You fucked it all up.
The Revolution is being televised. AEW Dynamite, Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. on TNT. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Jonathan and I are two friends, fans, lovers of professional wrestling who are here every single Monday morning with all the latest news from All Elite Wrestling. Thanks to our EVP, Chris Genro, for his amazing support and all of our supporters on Patreon. What a massive week for our Patreon. So many awesome best friends coming out to support the show, help us keep it ad-free, help us make the show better and better every week. If you want to join the flock and score some awesome perks like exclusive bonus podcasts, special Discord channels, and getting to watch the show live, head to patreon.com/seeing the elite. That's patreon.com/seeing the elite. Thank you so much for helping us make the show elite. This is not a sports entertainment show. It's an entertaining sports show supported by fans like you from all over the world on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, podcast services everywhere. Subscribe, review, give us 5 stars, just like Meltzer. It makes us feel so sweet. Jonathan, how sweet?
Too sweet, buddy.
Too sweet, motherfucker. Facebook.com/seeing the elite, Twitter @seeing the elite, and tinyurl.com/seeing the elite if you want to join our Discord server, which was on fire during Dynamite this week. Difficult for me to keep up with it and take notes at the same time, and I felt so bad. I'm like, I gotta interact with people, and also I gotta know what I'm talking about tomorrow. But we're having a blast over there. So many new people in there. Our best friends, of course, keeping everything going. And, man.
There was almost a revolt that we renamed that to be the Bastards. And I'm having a hard time disagreeing with this.
JD on the time codes, as always, if you're looking for something specific. And we're going to get into everything that happened this week. Probably the biggest week we've ever had, because they sleeper dropped a brand new AEW television show without really any warning on Friday, and then eventually ended up dropping it on Tuesday. So now we have BTE on Mondays, AEW Dark on Tuesday nights, and then AEW Dynamite on Wednesdays. And
then
we're gonna
occasionally wrestlers getting room service.
Right.
That doesn't seem to be on an actual schedule.
It looks like it's going to be this last one was Thursday morning. So
okay.
We're gonna see, but it's gonna be basically 4 days of content, I would imagine, at least until they're out of wrestlers getting room service. Although I can't imagine they would be, because we're gonna talk about it later. But this week was really, really good. I really enjoyed that show this week. We're gonna start with a quote, as we always do, though. This is great because it's in reference to the quote that we had last week when Jericho was asked about it. Quote, "Because they're embarrassed. I know how they work, and the fact is I haven't seen the actual rating, but I'm assuming They know how it is, and I think we probably kicked their ass. They started this. Everything they've done has been a reactionary move to us. We're not in a war with anybody besides ourselves. I don't care if you resurrect John and George and it's the reunion of the Beatles at the Super Bowl or whatever. All that matters is our show. You can put anything up against us and we can't compete with that. We can compete with what we're doing. That comes from Chris Jericho. And the sort of the corporate speak that they've been pushing that he does at the end there, where, well, we're only competing with ourselves or whatever. True as it might be, it's also like kind of bullshit, because they are competing with other people. That's how the ratings work. That's why you don't see ratings in a vacuum. You see them in comparison to everybody else.
Yeah, I'm going to be very curious to see how the ratings shift once playoff baseball ends, because that will be a legitimate big shift, because there are a lot of wrestling fans who are watching playoff baseball right now because it does come once a year.
Well, sure, and then it'll be interesting to see what WWE or really what Fox's move is, because one of those Friday nights is going to be a World Series night.
I don't. That's a damn.
So
I don't know.
Are they
if
going to
Fox
punt
still,
it to FS1 or something like
Fox
that?
still have the World Series?
I believe that they do.
Oh, that's going to be. Sucks to WWE. You're getting shafted, motherfucker.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to get punted over to FS1, which would be like, wow.
Yeah, because they're not putting the World Series on FS1 if they have an open slot on Fox. That's not happening.
Yeah.
Oh, well, man. Sucks to be Vince. I know that was a big worry for a lot of people with AEW going to TNT, because for the NBA, everybody was worried, oh yeah, they'll get bumped all the time for NBA games. Like, not really.
Yeah, not really. Not if they're on Wednesday, right?
I mean, they might maybe during playoffs, but
maybe, yeah, but I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, they were simulcasting on True TV, which people were watching. I didn't know that they were doing. I feel like, did they not do that last week, but they only did it this week? Or?
It was done this week because they anticipated that the games might go over. Mm-hmm. So they were preemptively. They didn't announce it very widely because it was kind of a last minute kind of thing, and purely because it was a game 5 of a 5-game series. So it was like, oh shit, this is actually happening. We have to have a plan.
What I did love about it, generally for me, this quote was Jericho's like candidness in the beginning here, where he's like, they're embarrassed. That's why they put out that statement about it's a marathon, not a sprint or whatever. And he's been on a couple of talk shows this week because of New York Comic Con, where it's not in the list because it happened so long ago. It feels like, but New York Comic Con, where him and Cody had some back and forth action. He's been very candid about when he talks about WWE. He's been like, yep, they're embarrassed about the scores. They said it's a marathon, not a sprint, but we didn't say it was a sprint. We know it's a marathon, and we're gonna win in the marathon too. So it's his sort of no bullshit attitude when talking about their reactionary tactics has been really funny. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's coming from a real place of him being like, wow, you are chasing so hard and you don't need to, because you have more resources than us in this industry.
I mean, dude, just after how shitty they were with ratings last week, dude, it's just going to keep going.
Being the elite number 173, I'm just getting started. The cold open with the Bucks giving a pep talk to an unknown party, trying their best to state the gravity of the situation. The third person becomes clear when Matt asks if they can count on him tonight and if he'd even listen to the voicemail that Matt had sent. Kenny says he heard it and he thought it was fucking stupid, but he heard it. He goes on to say that they all signed 4-year contracts. So as far as Kenny is concerned, they're, quote, just getting started. Nick and Matt immediately pick up on the catchphrase drop, but decide to just let it go and just ask Kenny again to really show up in last week's match, which of course he didn't. The Bucks exit, and Kenny enjoys a serene moment alone as he mumbles to himself and chuckles about nothing. As we head to the title sequence, the first segment out of the titles has an obnoxious red filter over it for no reason other than it's BTE, and that's what it's like.
Yeah, dude, it was fucking terrible. I mean, we talked about it in our chat. Like, does this happening for anyone else? Yeah. I saw it in numerous places on Reddit, and because people were all like, "What the fuck?"
Well, it was just weird because it was so long, and because the red filter was so high that it obscured what they were trying. There were times when they were trying to show us specific things, and you couldn't see what they were because of the red filter. And it didn't seem intentional. Now, I think it's probably intentional only because they used to do this shit in the show before. And they even sort of poke fun of it with the thing at the end with the cartoon Bucks, right? Where it's normal and then it goes to a cartoon version of a red filter. So they used the red filter before. So I think it may have been intentional. It may not have been.
Entirely possible. I don't know. It was very strange. It was very strange.
Yeah. Matt and Nick talk about their state of mind as they enter the arena at around noon on the night of First TV. Nick then thanks Matt for wearing the shirt. It appears as though Matt didn't really have much choice. Nick is very happy that both designs were the best sellers for the week. It seems like he's trying to rub it in the face of anybody who disliked his Photoshop. We then see a Road 2 title sequence. And there was no Road 2 episode this week, so I guess this is a small confirmation that the Road 2 type content will be rolled into BTE or Dark, respectively. Kind of weird that it's just kind of thrown in there and then there isn't really any Road 2 footage, so it feels like a nod to, hey, we've sort of enveloped Road 2 into BTE or whatever.
It looks, yeah, it felt like it, and that's probably what's going to have to happen going forward anyways. It's the only thing that really makes sense.
Yeah, the actual Road 2 team has likely been moved to TV production. There was some stuff that we saw this week where they had shot Kenny going through the glass table with Moxley in those sort of super high quality slow motion cameras and stuff like that. So that team, I think, is probably still working, probably still doing stuff, but it's not going to be something that we see presented in Road 2 every week. It's going to be stuff that we see rolled into other products as sort of a support team for all of the content and not as its own thing, which, okay, I'm fine with that. There's then a hilarious Orange Cassidy segment where he's seen lounging around the arena while answering an interviewer's questions with sort of one-word answers. You know, what's it like being friends with the best friends? He's like, it's fine.
It's fine. It's so great, dude. It was just a rent. It's fine. They're cool. All right.
This leads to a segment in the locker room where Cassidy is kicked back on a bench between the Bucks, who are looking at their phones. There's this funny moment here where Matt puts his phone down beside him, and Nick throws his phone out of frame. It's this very strange moment. Matt asks Nick what Cassidy is doing here. They check to see if he's asleep, shaking him, calling out, no response. Nick lifts Orange Cassidy's glasses, and his eyes are staring directly into the lens.
Almost as if he fell asleep just sitting up.
Yeah, with his eyes open.
Eyes open. Yeah, it was very strange. Very strange.
Cassidy pulls his glasses back down, says, "All right, guys, good talk," and then goes on his merry way, stopping only to check for his belongings and then saying, "I don't have anything in here," and leaving. I love the idea that Orange Cassidy strolls in with just what he's wearing, hands in his pockets, doesn't need the locker room really at all, other than to hang out. In the next scene, Kazarian and Marco Stunt reenact a story Kazarian told on Room Service a few weeks back. In this, Kazarian is playing Bob Holly and Marco Stunt is playing Frankie Kazarian from the time. It's pretty funny if you know the story. if you don't know the story, you've seen it. Just imagine those characters as other people, because that's the whole thing. If not, go back and watch the SCU room service episode, and they tell it. I think it's like the last story that Kazarian tells before they go out, and it's great. Next, we see the man himself, Silent Bob, having a silent chat with Jungle Boy.
Loved it, dude. Loved it so much.
I think
Full
it's
in character.
Great. I think it's totally the integration with YouTube, as we're going to talk about in a minute here, is super important for this company, and I love that they're being as proactive about it as they have been. So him and Jay both showing up in BTE is so much more than like, oh, we booked an appearance for the TV show. I think BTE is the place where like, oh, that's where you really exist within the universe, more than, oh, you were booked for the TV show and you showed up on the TV show and said, hey, Jericho's in our movie, and then fucked off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I hope that celebrities in the future, you're booked for the show, and then you also kind of do a little skate on BTE, and that kind of brings you into the universe in a bigger way.
That would be the hope. I know Kevin is very involved with the rest of he was, it's Kevin, so he's down to do whatever.
Yeah, he's a podcaster, right? Internet content is not something that is beyond him.
Right, and he's not going to be like, no, I only came for just this one thing. I'm out. He's like, he was there all day just hanging out with everybody.
He was there on the whole show. He was backstage with people. So,
so yeah, I hope that it continues as well, because it was really funny. I did find out that during listening to the almost 4.5 hour Pulp Fiction commentary, what Jericho's role is, because they, I guess, recorded this like maybe 2 weeks ago and anticipated this to go out in like a month, because they're kind of talking about things in the past tense, and they're like, yeah, I know people have seen my role in the movie, even though like the actual premiere of the movie is like next week.
Yeah.
And so yeah, if anyone wants spoilers,
he's a Grand Wizard KKK guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they had to order him a costume from the only person in the world who makes KKK costumes. Apparently, it's some little old grandma who has a website.
Wow.
I didn't think it was that hard to get a sheet, man.
Luchasaurus and Jay come around the corner. They say these two, Jay says, these two won't shut the fuck up ever. And Luchasaurus says, tell me about it, man. I got to deal with this every week. Jungle Boy leaps up onto Luchasaurus's shoulders, and they exit. And then Jay and Silent Bob, of course, monkey see, monkey do the same thing, but it doesn't go so well. Fun little skit, kind of inconsequential. I think it's weird that they broke out the Janela thing and didn't also use it here. I thought it would have been really funny to throw it in somewhere, but they didn't. So technically he kind of did 2 BTE sketches, but only one actually made it to BTE, and the other one was BTE Dark, I guess.
It fit a lot better just being on Janela's Twitter page.
Maybe it was a little more risque than they would have wanted to do too, so I don't know. Now Leva is FaceTiming Peter Avalon from outside the Library of Congress. Leva is, of course, excited to be there, as it's the best library in America, right? Peter then seems annoyed that he even has to FaceTime to begin with. Leva says she's going to take Peter inside and show him what a real library looks like, all the while Peter's like, I can't even read what the building says. I
don't care.
Next, we see a scene with an angry Nick because Matt claims that he accidentally spilled a whole pot of coffee on his Young Bucks t-shirt. But it turns out that not all is lost, because Nick has packed a spare t-shirt for Matt. He says, I knew you were going to spill coffee. You always do. As MJF comes into frame, he says, hey, Outlaw Mud Show pricks. And Matt can't help but do a Jimmy Fallon here. As soon as he hears it, MJF says that just because they're not friends doesn't mean they can't talk business. MJF then pitches his official MJF quote, I can't afford a real scarf. Matt can't believe this, but Nick is enraged. He gets right up in MJF's face. He says, God, this pisses me off. You know why it pisses me off? Because I didn't think of it first. This is going to sell more than this t-shirt. Brilliant. I love it. Nick's reaction here totally sold it. I thought it was beautiful.
I'm really wondering where this is going, because it's going down a weird path. It's like, oh yeah, fuck it. The Bucks are splitting up. So it's like, I don't know about that, but okay.
It's just, I mean, I don't think it's ever going to go that far with them. I think it's just funny to have this weird turmoil between them, with Nick seeing himself as this designer guy whose main objective is to sell shirts, like sell merch.
Yeah, it's strange. Like there's that tension. There's the tension with Hangman. There's the tension with Kenny. A little bit of the tension with Dustin from, so it's very interesting.
It's interesting because we're now building towards the Elite versus the Inner Circle, and the Elite are not on the same page. Like, so many of them not on the same page for different various reasons. And the Bucks really being the genesis of that. And everybody's kind of slightly off from where they are in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, when the core two are fighting, it kind of just fractures out from there. And with everything that else has been going on, so it's not surprising that this is what's happening, but it's still a little surprising that they're like, okay, fuck it.
Nick, of course, forces Matt to wear the scarf now, too. So
yeah,
now
of course.
He's just walking around as a mannequin for different things that Nick wants to sell.
I bet next week it's a hat.
Next up is some candid stuff from Gorilla. It's fascinating to see the last 30 seconds before the Elite enter, with Tony sitting at the monitors looking just over the moon, honestly, among other sort of small moments from Gorilla. Now the Bucks are backstage after Dynamite to berate the Hangman. They ask Hangman where he was. Hangman replies that he was in the regular locker room, not the special EVP locker room by the entrance.
Just so much salt,
which is great,
man.
which means he knew what happened and intentionally didn't come out because he was butthurt about stuff. Which I think is really interesting. Matt says that Hangman hasn't talked to them in months, and Nick says Hangman's mind has been in the gutter ever since he lost to Jericho. The Bucks exit. Dustin, who sits on a nearby bench, tells Hangman that they're right. He's not even in the Elite, and he was out there. Hangman finally kind of wakes up from this malaise that he's been in, seemingly. He apologizes to Dustin, says he'll make it up to him, then exits as we see a match card for a match that we'll talk about later because it ended up happening on the episode. That's how fast this is moving. Hangman and Dustin versus Guevara and Jericho. The speed that things are moving at in this company is really unbelievable. I used to really feel it when I would be a subscriber to wrestling magazines, where you get the magazine and the magazine's talking about a pay-per-view that happened like 2 months ago or whatever, as though it's news, right? And we're a weekly show. And a lot of times, especially recently, it's been like, oh yeah, let's talk about this thing, but it's already been paid off. And and we're already on to this next thing. And I mean, that's the way that things have been in this run up, where something comes out on Being the Elite and then it's on the show on Wednesday, and then we're, like within the week it's already paid off or whatever. So
I mean,
that's going to be interesting moving forward for us.
It's kind of interesting, but at the same time, we get the full story to talk about from beginning to end, which is not something we've really had, because it's been, okay, here's this beginning, and then
trickle, right?
And then real big payoff. So
now we're actually getting everything at the same time. Now we see a doctor gluing Kenny's head back together with Michael Nakazawa and Riho by his side. The Bucks enter and ask to be alone with Kenny. Kenny seems to be sobered up here and is the first to apologize for not being there for the end of the match, although I think it's understandable considering he got DDT'd through a fucking glass table, but, whatever. Matt says that they're not even angry or upset at this point. They're just disappointed. And then the Bucks exit. The episode ends on Kenny alone, looking embarrassed. Pretty great episode of the show. This is where kind of most of the story content is happening for All Elite Wrestling at this point, is through BTE. Like, if you're watching Dynamite and you're not watching BTE, you're kind of missing half of the story.
To a point. I mean, I've talked to a couple people who, at work, who's like out of wrestling, and I explained to them, when you watch the show on Wednesdays, you're getting really just a lot of wrestling, and that's it. You're not, getting too much story content. A couple of them were, I don't know how I feel about that, because I enjoy the storylines and the promos. I was like, you'll still get promos.
Oh, you still got fucking promos.
Well,
this week, but.
We have for now. It's only 2 weeks in, but it's still the majority of the story is presented elsewhere.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting, but yeah, like this, especially this week really set the stage for AEW promos.
So I guess we should talk about AEW Dark.
I'm
AEW
hoping we
Dark,
have more to talk about next week. I enjoyed AEW Dark this week.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're going to talk, in a little bit in depth about it as we go, but
I mean a little bit. But here's the thing about AEW Dark. So AEW Dark it's the dark matches from the previous Wednesday presented to us on Tuesday before the next episode, intercut with green screen sort of hosting stuff from Tony Schiavone, where he sort of recaps what happened, right? Basically, it's like, what if SmackDown, the old SmackDown when it was a tape show, was composed entirely of dark matches that they shot at Raw? And when I say dark matches, I mean production-wise, they're exactly as they are on Dynamite. It's not like it's a single cam thing with no commentary or whatever, which some people were kind of expecting, I think. It's not. They're full production, full commentary team, and they're great to a certain extent. But, I mean, you have to understand that this is content that they were like, let's do it, but it's not for the show. It's for this other thing. I think what's genius about AEW Dark is the fact that it's a YouTube show. YouTube is the lowest barrier to entry imaginable. My dad, who does not do my dad who carries a Garmin with him to use as a GPS, uses YouTube, understands how to find stuff on YouTube. So I think it's an absolutely genius plan to keep this really full-length wrestling show on YouTube for people who cannot or will not watch Dynamite.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. It's funny stuff. The way they're doing it is that, every match matters. Great. Awesome. It's also, that if we have a match at the arena and you can't make it out, you're going to see it. You may have to do a little legwork, but you're going to see it. None of this, like every other company does, of we have 2 hours of content, but before and after we'll have one match that doesn't really matter, but it's really just for you guys. It's just something special for you. AEW is treating all of their fans as, we understand that not everyone can make it out to the show because it's not in your town, or there's financial things in place, or there's just time and scheduling and that keeps you from being here. So all of the fans are equal. There's no pay to win kind of scenario here. It's, if you're a fan, you're a fan. You can watch everything.
Well, this is all canon shit too, like, because it impacted Darby Allin's win-loss record when he won over Shima, which was probably the best match of AEW Dark.
Yeah, everybody's match counted last night. The records were updated appropriately to be on Dynamite last night.
So they're not. They call it AEW Dark in reference to the idea of them being dark matches, but they're not dark matches. They're just making a tape show while they're around their sort of live tape show that they do. So that said, all of these dark matches, I felt like if I watched AEW Dark because I host this show, right? but I felt like if I was a fan just watching, if I hadn't watched AEW Dark, if I had said, Dynamite's enough for me,
that would have been fine.
I don't feel like I missed anything huge.
Not the first week, no.
But I think that's also kind of the point.
Yeah, it is. It's you don't have to tune in every single week of AEW Dark to know what's going on.
Right.
Now, you'll probably have some buzz of like, dude, this one match was really cool. You should go watch this one of the four, which is definitely what we saw out of this first episode. The Darby versus Shima match, easily the best of the four.
Yeah. So,
we'll talk more about them, but I feel like even the matches that we know were announced for last night's Dynamite, there's one match that you and I both really want to watch. And that's the one that everybody's talking about, not any of the other four.
Right. That'll be interesting to see how Dark evolves moving forward. If it just stays as this thing, if you want more, there's an extra hour, then I'm down with it. Honestly, I think that's great. But I think it's a really cool idea, and I think the biggest part of it is that they're creating original content for YouTube, which I think in this day and age is super smart. And, WWE's done things from time to time, original content for YouTube, but this is a full embrace of YouTube. This is a B show for AEW, and it's only on YouTube.
Yeah, it's the WWE main event, whatever.
Super easy to share, super easy for everyone to get in. You don't need an account to watch it. Like, everybody can watch this thing. More people can watch this thing than can watch the TNT shows. So.
This is the gateway. This is how you get people in on TNT, because you can have one of your friends like, dude, watch this. This is what I'm talking about that I watch every Wednesday night. This is why.
Yeah. I think it's great.
And a couple of people in Discord were talking like this, and people on Reddit as well, that this is why, or this would be the best place if you want Alex Marvez involved with commentary. This is where you put him. Give him matches, give him a place to learn, a place to improve his craft, and there you go. Not on TV where if he stumbles, it's noticeable and it's painful and it's bad because this is going out to millions of people. It's YouTube. It's okay.
Yo, we got to talk though, because JR is a fucking problem. JR, and I know that there are people listening at home who weren't in the Discord chat or whatever, didn't see my feelings about this. I know there are people at home who have probably thought that we've been hard on JR in the past. JR literally said during this show at the conclusion of the women's match, don't worry, folks, they will get better. What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? I want to make it clear. I understand that JR has opinions about the product.
Well, he is
not paid to give his opinions about the product.
He has opinions about women's wrestling. That's really more.
But he did it on fucking Dynamite too. To Hangman Page.
He's done it to Hangman like 3 times now, dude. I'm not defending him. I'm right there with you. This should not be happening. This is not okay anymore. Once, twice, sure.
Yeah.
Not
if he made a mistake and then was corrected on it. And I understand Cody loves JR. TK loves JR.
See, that's where it is. I don't know. I don't think this is Cody anymore.
He's probably not going to be reprimanded for it, but you cannot have the voice of your show saying, hey, folks, we know this sucks, but stay with us because maybe there will be a good match in the future. What are you doing? That's not your job. Your job is to help tell the story, not be a fucking snarky asshole behind the desk. Go to your fucking podcast, shill your goddamn fucking barbecue sauce, and then tell us what your opinions are, if you must. But honestly, just don't do it on the fucking desk.
See, I think he will be reprimanded for this. Because it's happened two weeks in a row now that it's happened, and this is not something that's okay. With Tony and Cody for the most part, not all the time, but both of them being in Gorilla and being in control of this, this is not something that's just going to keep slipping out. And the more I watch of seeing everything, this is a Tony thing. This is not a Cody thing. Cody wanted Tony Schiavone. That's clear. It's very clear.
And Tony Schiavone, I have had absolutely no problems with Tony Schiavone's performance. I thought he's been great. Every week.
And the other problem I've been having with JR is, and it was very much so in AEW Dark, but also last night, is Tony Schiavone and Excalibur they're taking breaks, and they're doing, more of like, this is kind of a little bit lost on you. It's more of like the soccer commentator where they know you do not have to fill every single second with noise.
Yeah.
You can let the action speak for itself, and that's what Excalibur and Tony Schiavone were doing. Meanwhile, JR was just rambling on and on and on all night last night.
I understand the pedigree he has in the industry. I understand that he's been told that he's the best to ever do it for the last 30 years.
And he was for a very, very long time.
But that kind of thing will fuck with a man's psyche, right? But, oh man, there is... getting on commentary and basically passive-aggressively shit-talking the performers in the ring, not for being heels or breaking the rules, but for legitimately being bad wrestlers. And don't get me wrong, I did not think Britt Baker and Allie versus Penelope Ford and Bea Priestley was a great match. I didn't think that.
I mean, I will also say I agreed with him. Yeah, I agreed with his opinion. That was they're not good.
I agree again.
But you can't do that.
I agree with you. I agree with his opinion. I cannot have the voice of the company sitting on commentary going well, that match...
That was shit.
They'll get better. Yeah. You know what I mean? What the fuck is that?
That's the commentary equivalent of just calling someone a good hand.
It's not even calling them a good hand. It's literally saying to the audience, we know this match sucked, but we showed you anyway. It's a tape show, right?
Yeah.
So he's literally getting on commentary and saying, "Yep, this match sucks."
That's the thing of it is the way that Dark is presented, you don't know that he was told that this is going to be a dark match.
Sure.
This could have been hey, we're filming this too. Just go ahead and commentate over it. We're going to drop it somewhere. And then
that's still no excuse.
I'm not saying it's an excuse. I'm just saying dude, what the fuck? You have to treat every match like this is on live television.
Yeah. Yeah, and even when he was on live television, he still said shit like that. Just passive, okay, we get it, but the other part of me is you know what? Whether or not the match was good, they're fucking trying. Do you get on commentary and you're well, they're gonna get better, folks. We promise they're gonna get better.
Yeah,
I'd be
livid.
Rip shit. At a motherfucker if he said that during my match. But how dare you? You get in the ring, you fucking old piece of shit.
But fucking Hangman, dude. Hangman was on fire last night. What was the cause for calling him out? It's okay, we get it. You don't like Hangman. If you're shit talking heels, okay, that's expected. That's how you commentate and you build interest and drama. Yeah. But when you're shit talking the face of the company, what the fuck?
Somebody that's definitely being primed for that at the very least, yeah.
Yeah. It's one thing for Tony Schiavone to be shit-talking MJF when he's running in to save Cody. He goes, oh, he's going to turn now. He's going to hit Cody. I know he will. Yeah, MJF's a fucking heel. And also, we're all sitting there oh, he's going to happen. Yep. Oh, it didn't.
Yeah.
Not, oh, Hangman.
Yep, sorry that he sucks, everybody.
He sucks.
It's like
what are you watching, dude?
Darby versus Shima was a great match, though.
Yeah.
I thought that match was really, really good. The best Shima match that I've seen. These two so fast, so seemingly super comfortable working with one another. I'm honestly surprised that I like this match more than I liked his match with Kenny Omega, and I really liked the match with Kenny Omega, but I thought this match was even better.
The one with Kenny went too long.
Yeah, Darby. The story throughout the match is that Darby tries the coffin drop several times, and each time remembers that jumping back first onto someone's a really bad idea, because you can't see what you're doing. And then at the end, he finally pulls it off. I thought it was the best match on the show. and I really enjoyed it. He, of course, wins by pinfall, which was reflected in his win-loss record. The second match, Lucha Bros versus the Hybrid, Lucha Bros and the Hybrid 2 versus Private Party and the Best Friends. Penta won this match versus Chucky T. He got a pin on Chucky T. I thought this match was a fucking mess.
There was there was nothing good about this match.
I thought that this match was actually worse than the women's match.
Yeah, because it made everybody was sloppy. There was botches all over the place, including Penta and
yeah. It seemed like there was a significant portion of this match where nobody knew what was supposed to be happening at all.
This does kind of still reinforce my point that this was not planned.
Yeah,
this was thrown together.
Seems like that point is pretty reinforced in my mind, and you can tell because an otherwise white hot crowd reacts accordingly and is kind of dead during this match, and they weren't dead during any other fucking match on the card. Even the women's match, which comes up next, Britt Baker and Allie versus Penelope Ford and Bea Priestley, which again wasn't great, but the crowd was super into it. People just got lost during the tag team match.
Yeah, because it made no goddamn sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, but okay, so the Britt Baker match, Penelope Ford looked awesome.
Penelope Ford looked awesome despite the fact that she's one of the least experienced women in the ring.
But looked better than the more experienced women in the ring.
In some cases, yes. I think she was showcased really well by the amount of time that she had. Allie, of course, was probably the weakest link skills-wise.
Yeah, I would argue Britt was, dude.
Yeah, you think so?
I continue to not see anything that impresses me about Britt Baker.
I agree with you on that front.
Her and Allie are like neck and neck right there.
The only thing about Britt Baker is that Britt Baker looks like a woman who could be in WWE. That's it.
Yeah, but so does Allie and so does Penelope.
I think it's just her look. Allie and Penelope to a certain extent. Allie and Penelope are honestly kind of small for what they do. I mean, they have small women now, but typically in the past, they kind of look for women that are kind of more of small Charlotte type, like Britt Baker is. So,
yeah, but Penelope is every bit of what Vince wants.
Sure. I agree
Allie, kind of not to the same point that Penelope is, but yeah, right. Penelope checks off all the boxes for Vince.
I do think that new submission that Britt Baker's doing is really good.
Yeah, it's good.
For her character, it's nice because it's her working in the dental thing more than just... And I understand it's true story or whatever, but it hasn't really been worked into her character to a great degree other than her ring gear and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's very difficult to be like, oh yeah, she's the underdog, she's the face. Like, okay, she can just stop all this and have a very successful career and making more money.
Sure, her having an orally focused finishing move is I think really smart for her character.
Yeah. This is a criticism I had, and I'll probably repeat it when we talk about the match that happened on Dynamite. Is like they either need to pay off the Bea Priestley thing or stop.
I think that's gonna happen soon. I thought that was gonna happen next week.
No, Britt's wrestling Riho.
Oh yeah, no, she's gonna, but Bea Priestley's going to be involved.
Yeah, but it's like they keep having this animosity, and they're wrestling out of the ring because they hate each other so much. But it's like, okay,
that's the Full Gear match.
Okay,
that's got to be the Full Gear.
It has to be, but it's also like you haven't given a single fucking promo about it. You haven't done dick, other than the fact that Bea kicked Britt in the face at Fight for the Fallen, gave her a concussion, and then gave her a black eye. And then you're all over Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and Twitter, like, oh, I got another mark from B. Like, okay, cool. Do something back then.
Yeah, I haven't been as bothered by it, but I understand and appreciate your feelings on it.
There's a black blur back there.
There's then a recap of Dynamite, which is nice that that's on the show. It's kind of the whole point of the show, to be honest. Put some matches on there and then tell people what happened on Dynamite. Kind of get people hyped up for next week of Dynamite, a refresher course. That's nice. Then Jurassic Express versus SCU. Kazarian pinned Stunt for the win here. This match is pretty good. I wish Stunt's gimmick fit a little better with what Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus are doing.
They could try harder to make it fit too.
Right. I think fans who have been with this from the beginning are like, yeah, they all hang out together. I think new fans are going to see Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. Okay, I know why they're here. Who's this other guy who doesn't really seem related at all?
And looks like he's 12.
Right, and the story isn't really that great. In terms of like, oh, why? Like if I'm watching with a new fan, they're like, oh, who's this other guy? I'm like, oh, they all know what it's like to be picked on, so they stay together. It's like, well, okay, that's kind of a flimsy reason for them to be hanging out together.
Yeah, like Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, like, oh yeah, they're two wild characters, and they were started wrestling at the same time, at the same exact camp. Makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
It's weird. But, AEW Dark, I'm looking forward to continue watching it. Some of the matches that they've announced for next week are big. We'll talk about them. But we're going to talk mostly in the future. Our sort of workflow is going to be that we don't really talk about the Dark matches so much, and we talk about them after they've been on AEW Dark the following week. So, it's exciting to have this sort of B show. It does mean an extra hour of content that we have to get through every week. But it was a pleasure this week to watch them, even the matches that I didn't really like. I got to reiterate that the JR thing is unacceptable at this point. As much as I respect JR and his contribution to the industry, I'm not saying taking him off commentary, but like, dude, keep your fucking opinions to yourself.
Yeah.
I don't care if you like the product or hate the product. Do your job. And then go do whatever the fuck you want to do on the side. I don't care. But don't get on the commentary and trash the performers who are fucking risking their lives in the ring to put this fucking shit on for you.
Pretty much.
Like, even if they're not doing a good job, I don't care. This isn't the Gong Show or something like that, right?
But,
like,
okay.
Just fucking do your job.
We're beating a dead horse here.
It makes me so mad.
It is what it is. There's literally nothing you and I can do about it. It is. We can tweet about it, and we can tell TK and AEW, like, dude, you need to get him off the table, but that's the most we can do. The real damaging part about Dark and Dynamite, which seems to be a little bit fixed this week, was fixed a little bit during Dynamite, is the music. Mm-hmm. AEW Dark, it was bad.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
It was.
I do not know why that was the case.
And
but the audio mixing was tough.
It was bad for the first match this week, the tag team title match, or not title, the tournament match. After that one, they seem to have fixed the deal, and they got the mixing corrected, so you can hear the music of what's going on. So I'm expecting the first match of AEW Dark this coming week to also be bad, because that will be the pre-show match. But it looks like they've solved that issue, thank God, because it stood out way worse there than it did on Dynamite last week.
Yeah, I didn't think it was bad on Dynamite. I noticed it on Dark. I mean, it's a big sticking point for people.
It's more just about being able to hear the entrance music so that you can associate that with the performers.
I understand why people are upset about that.
Well, it's also
it just
weird
doesn't
when
really fucking matter to me at all.
Well, yeah, but it's fucking weird when people are walking in and you hear nothing.
That's fair. I get it. But as far as issues to have production-wise, I don't think it's as big a deal as people are making it out to be.
It is when
I do think it should get fixed, but
it's clearly an easy thing to fix because they fixed it in the middle of the episode this week.
Let's talk about some news. Kevin Smith says WWE uninvited him and Jason Mewes from SmackDown after they were on AEW Dynamite.
This is so petty, dude.
Ellie Collins for Uprocks wrote this. Thank you, Ellie. Last week, as you probably remember, Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes appeared on the debut episode of AEW Dynamite. They sat in the front row for the entire show and were interviewed by Chris Van Vliet about their upcoming movie, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, which features Chris Jericho in a short segment, and that also included tag teams The Hybrid 2 and Private Party. Smith and Jericho appeared together and talked about AEW on The Rich Eisen Show. Kevin Smith claims to have less experience with wrestling than I would have expected, but he did clearly enjoy Dynamite. Quote, I went to the world debut of AEW on TNT, and I'd never been to a match before. Certainly not one of that size, and it was dazzling. I had a really great time, just dazzling. Like, that audience, the energy, they're part of it. Everyone's involved in the performance, and the audience is part of that performance. So much more than any other sporting event I've ever been to in my life, where people spectate. They are engaged with wrestling. Like, it doesn't happen without them. They are the other character. Pretty fascinating, man. What's particularly interesting, though, is that he and Muse appearing on that show led to the cancellation of another appearance they'd already planned for that week. Quote, "We were supposed to go do WWE, me and Jay, the very next day, SmackDown. And then the morning after, because the AEW show trended, like there was a lot of coverage and stuff. And so the next morning, we were told that WWE was like, you can't come anymore. And they canceled us. They kicked me and Jay off the show," end quote. It's an easy
It's just like, how fucking petty are you, Vince? Like, seriously?
I'm not even surprised.
I'm not surprised either, but like, goddamn, dude, that's fucking petty.
It's an easy mistake to make when you think about it. Being Hollywood guys, Kevin and Jay and whoever books their publicity appearances probably thought being on wrestling was like being on a talk show. Stephen Colbert doesn't cancel your booking because you were also on Jimmy Fallon. But obviously WWE doesn't work that way. Or as Chris Jericho put it, quote, "The first casualty in the wrestling war was Jay and Silent Bob," end quote. Yeah, man, deeply petty move by WWE, deeply unsurprising move by WWE. This doesn't have the whole quote from Kevin. I recommend going and watching the Rich Eisen show that they were on, because Kevin gushes about AEW. Like, I think I missed my calling is what he said. He's like, I would have done this. He was into it. He was super into it, man, which was crazy to see. Somebody of his caliber, like, ingesting live wrestling for the first time and being like, oh my God, I understand this thing. But of course he would, coming from where he's from, right?
It's and just knowing Kevin from listening to his content and seeing him like this, it meshes so well with him, because he's a big nerd. He's a big comic book nerd, and when you're giving him over the top performances, because it's theater, it's comic books, it's theater, it's all of these things, these over-the-top personalities, these over-the-top performances. It's like, yeah, you couldn't have picked a better super fan than Kevin Smith.
And he'd said so on Instagram, too, but it was cool to see him go on the Rich Eisen show and be like, no, man, I freaking love it.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the one reason I'm kind of bummed that the movie tour is starting when it is, because since the movie tour is officially, it starts like right now, he won't be doing any of his regular shows. So I don't get to listen to him gush to one of his co-hosts for like 45 minutes about, dude, I went to wrestling.
That's unfortunate. Maybe, but he said he'll be back in the future, so maybe we'll get to hear it in the future. Room service this week was with the Bucks and Joey Janela. It's one of the episodes that I liked more so far. They discussed the bump that made Janela's career into the back of that truck with all the glass and the barbed wire and stuff. They talk at length about the Enzo Amore and Big Cass situation, which is great, and the beginning of AEW and more. They discuss a lot of things. It's about 40 minutes long. It's really, really good, and I recommend going to watch it. I think it's great.
Before we get into Dynamite, should we talk about the cause of the hatred that you and I have about Dynamite, about the ending of the first episode, about who brought this onto us?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, you may not have seen it. The reason why Jack Swagger is in AEW at all is because Jericho personally invited him and vouched for him to Tony and Cody. It is Jericho's fault we have to put up with this piece of shit.
Look, we were so mean to not uncalled for mean, but we were very critical of Jake Hager last week. We're going to be very critical of him in the future. He didn't really do anything this week that pissed me off. So I'm going to let this one ride. Just like next week, I'm probably going to let JR ride unless he pisses me off again.
I mean, but coming into Dynamite's episode last night, I was super pissed. I was like, you know what? Fuck Jericho. I'm done. fuck him. I never want to see that piece of shit because he's invited this other piece of shit into my life, and I have to deal with it. And then the promo happened last night, and you know what? I'm fine with it. I'm gonna buy that goddamn T-shirt. But there was so much in the promo where oh god, it was so good. So good.
Well, let's talk about AEW Dynamite number 2, live from Boston, Massachusetts, the Agganis Arena. The show opens with a great video package for Private Party versus Young Bucks. I loved this. It's a lot of reused stuff from Road 2s and whatnot. Start TV like you start a pay-per-view, though. I love that. Like, no 20-minute promo, no bullshit, short story recap into the fucking match immediately. I love that.
Yeah.
I think it's so...
You don't have to deal with the first 20 minutes of the show. Okay, cool, I'll turn this on. I'm going to go do something else now because it's not going to fucking matter.
You don't have Stephanie coming out and being like, you're back watching this show again? Aha, you fat loser.
Yeah.
You know, like,
now,
okay,
if
thanks.
MJF and Jericho came out and did that, I'd be down. But we don't have this, we have to set up the show for the week. It's like, no, we're into it. Let's do this.
Yeah. I love that Private Party is introduced at a combined weight of 24 ounces of vodka cranberry. I think that's amazing.
So, Carissa was having a real bad day yesterday, and she's had a real bad week because she had to have wisdom tooth cut out, and it's just been a whole thing.
Oof. Yeah,
well, actually, ended up being 2, but it's been a whole thing. She's had a really, really rough week. And I saw that last night, and I rewound, videotaped it, sent it to her, and was like, this will make you laugh. I know you're not watching because you've had a shitty day, but just watch this 15 seconds. And she texted me back, like, okay, that was hilarious. That was awesome. Thank you. I was like, yep, I know.
That's great. There was a power bomb on the ramp spot that was really gnarly. They said steel ramp. I think that ramp is probably not actual diamond plate steel.
It's a form of steel.
No, I understand that. I know
Not
diamond plate. I understand steel. I don't think it's. I think it's the way that it shines is not correct under the lighting.
Yeah, it's probably, like I said, it's a form of steel. It's not true diamond plate. It's like something weird with chrome on top of it. Honestly, there were a lot of spots in this match that were insane. Their finishing move is bonkers.
It's great. It's great, man.
I mean, I don't
the
know
match
much...
was amazing. It was the match of the night for me. Mark Quinn in particular stood out as being just fucking great in so many ways. Like, has that great character, but then also is just fantastic in the ring. To the point where I honestly think Isaiah Cassidy needs to come up a little more in both ways. But Isaiah Cassidy's good. It's just Mark Quinn is shining.
But it's okay that he's not on that level. He has
sure.
It gives him room to grow, and it's fine. It's good that you have one guy that's completely on fire, and you have your teammate who you are. It's clear you have taken him under your wing while also being just like 25.
Yeah. Private Party going over was a fantastic decision, and the match just lit up the crowd for the rest of the night. Boston came the fuck out for this show.
Oh yeah,
in a big way, and that was awesome. But Private Party moving ahead in the bracket, which Jonathan and I both had written, I believe. So
yeah, we both picked Private Party, getting the quote upset of the tournament because the Bucks were the number 1 seed apparently. But yeah, dude, Private Party showed them up, man.
I thought it was their opportunity to show who they were, and I thought they absolutely did it.
Did you see Meltzer's comment on this?
No.
Oh, he's shitting all over it.
The Private Party Bucks match?
That Private Party went over.
No, fuck him.
You're supposed to. You have the Bucks who are supposed to be like one of your main talents, and you have these completely unknowns going over on them in your tournament. Such a bad decision, such bad booking.
What you mean,
dude,
like?
Come
what
on,
you
shut
mean,
the
like
fuck
a
up.
fight? Like that happens all the fucking time? What are you talking? It's an upset victory.
Yeah, it's fine, but it's also like, dude, shut the fuck up. Your best friends didn't win the match. Get the fuck over it and look and watch the match that happened.
They probably asked to not win the match too.
Yeah, because they've been asking to not win since the company fucking started. But it's like they put over an amazing young team that will be in this company and wrestling for this company for the life of this company, while the Bucks themselves know we're in the sunset of our career. We've been doing this for 15 years. And
it made perfect. The Bucks have not been on the same page with each other. They lost a brutal match fairly recently. They got their asses kicked last week, right? Like, it made perfect sense for them to just come up just short here. And they came up just short. It was super competitive. And they just, yeah. It only takes 3 seconds to lose the match, like they said. So,
but yeah, it was a very interesting take. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. You've proven now that you don't know what you're talking about.
Private Party, through the picture-in-picture commercial break, just has a party with Boston, man, and that's great. And I think it was awesome that they were given that time, because there's other things they could have done during the commercial break, but we got a picture-in-picture break of them doing this. I do think it's kind of interesting. We got a picture-in-picture break of this, but there were matches that we had to completely cut away from later.
Yeah, I'm guessing it has something to do with just advertising rights, and they can do picture-in-picture, but they can't do it all the time.
Well, they can't do it all the time, so I think they only have so many, and
They're probably
as much as I liked seeing them party with Boston and stuff like that, I think you should save them for when you're going to need them.
It may be that they can only do them through certain windows, through certain commercial breaks.
Yeah.
And that would make a lot of sense knowing how TV shit is going down. Like, we will allow you during the first commercial break to do this, not through the next 3 and so forth. So
right. Back from break, Jericho and his boys come out to the ring. Jericho stands in the ring with his boys and says the high ratings of last week's debut were all thanks to him. He goes on to say that him and his guys aren't next, we're now, end quote. I thought that was amazing. Jericho says that fans have been asking him if this stable is going to stick together, if they have a name. Jericho says yes to all of it. And Jericho then goes through the ranks and tells the world why each man made, quote, his list, end quote. First, Sammy Guevara.
That was the great thing about this promo is, like, he went through all of his gimmicks. Not just in this promo, but also throughout the night, and hitting those phrases that will get a pop out of everyone in the arena and everyone at home. Is like, oh yeah, I remember that. That's great.
Yeah. First, Sammy Guevara, who Jericho picked because, quote, look how sexy he is, end quote.
That was a... No.
He then says, not only is he a teenage heartthrob, he's one of the greatest performers I've seen at his age in a long time, end quote. True. And I love that this carries over from some interviews that Jericho had done where he said that AEW needs young heartthrob guys because it's something that WWE isn't doing because they're not putting people on the main roster till they're like 30 now.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, basically. So
you're still lucky if you get on by 30.
I love that that's his reasoning, is that he basically the reason he hired Guevara is because he's young and good looking, but also great in the ring. He then moves to Santana and Ortiz, who Jericho personally recruited to AEW because, quote, they're Street Fighter back alley brutes, and I like it, end quote.
Don't forget that they're dirty. Literally says that he's like so far from just going like, yeah, they're dirty Mexicans, and I love that. And he caught himself right on the edge of it. I was like, okay, buddy.
Well, he then threw out the Viva La Raza, which was really fitting as that that night was Eddie's birthday.
It popped that crowd so hard, dude. I popped it home, man.
Great.
That was wonderful. Him and Eddie were very, very close friends, so amazing thing, and not the whole... Eddie Guerrero was my hero and my inspiration, and this is why my finishing move is based on Eddie Guerrero, because he was my hero, my inspiration, even though I'm not even tangentially tied to Eddie Guerrero, and the people that are tied to Eddie Guerrero can't say dick on TV about him.
Sure. And they, they have that, or they have Rousey being connected to Piper or whatever, right? And it's like, oh, these are the legacy characters for these guys. It's like, we don't need legacy characters. It'd just be nice if you mentioned them a little more,
Or just make the connections valid.
Right. There was an Eddie chant in the arena, and it was a really nice moment for a second there. Jericho then turns his attention to Jake Hager, who immediately starts cutting an awesome hype promo on Jake Hager. Halfway through the promo, chants of "We the People" begin to sort of drown out what Jericho's saying, and he momentarily breaks character to address it. He's like, all right, hold on.
I don't even think he broke character. I mean, this is right in line with him.
Watch it back. There's a split second there where he's just like, Jesus, and gets out of it, and it's so... Like, he drops the voice, he drops everything. He's like, all right, I gotta go handle this fucking problem right now.
Yeah.
He says, hey, calm down 1 second. We the People sucks, and it's dead and buried. It was a stupid idea from bad creative, and that's all gone.
And that right there is why my whole attitude towards Jericho changed, because he acknowledged this bullshit thing and called out Vince so hard. So hard, dude.
Very candid about it. I loved it because wrestling fans will do that shit. Apparently, people tried to do it later in the night from our people that were there. Orange Cast Daddy was there. Beardman was there. Said someone in his section yelled out, "Burn it down," and was immediately booed by everyone around them. I hope that becomes a thing at AEW stuff. Like, keep that fucking WWE shit out of here. Like, no one thinks you're smart or clever for doing some chant from, oh, I know you from WWE or whatever. It's like, fuck that shit. Get that out of here. Like, just live
go.
in this universe,
We don't need that here. This is not WWE. Stop trying to get yourself over for bullshit. Just get out.
Yeah. There was an AEW chant after that as the crowd sort of came around to being like, oh, okay, this is AEW and we'll talk about AEW stuff here. And it's good that Jericho kind of comes out and sets the boundary with this promo. He comes out and says, anything from that creative team, like get it the fuck out of here, because it's bad. You all know it's bad. That's why you're here. So stop.
Yeah.
And I thought it was wonderful, and I think the crowd got it, and that's where the AEW chant comes from, is people being like, yeah, no, this is AEW. It'll be about AEW from now on. And I think that's really great. And I think Jericho is owed a great deal of praise for being that transparent about it and finding a way to, within the performance, be like, hey, yo, stop.
Yeah. And that's what's needed. That was what we needed, that in Lucha Underground. We needed that in Ring of Honor, Impact, everywhere. It's this thing that need to happen, because you cannot keep comparing this to one product or another. If you want to watch AEW and you want to be involved in AEW, stop trying to bring it back to the other thing that people aren't super into. Stop trying to get yourself over by being that, I'm going to call back to this other thing. I know what it is.
Right. Yeah, it's silly. Jericho finishes his promo about Hager. Hopefully, this will be sort of the end of crowds chanting WWE crap at AEW shows. I can only hope. Jericho then announces that these men are in his inner circle, which will be the name of the group going forward, the Inner Circle. A T-shirt for the Inner Circle went up almost instantly on Pro Wrestling Tees. They were ready for it, and it crashed the site for 3 hours.
Yeah, they were not expecting that amount of traffic, and it's very clear. They probably got, and this comes to mind for me because I'm in retail. I have to look at Black Friday shit right now. We have to prep for that. We've been doing testing for that. They probably got Black Friday load on their servers, and we're like, oh fuck, we didn't prepare for this. Well, okay, it's gonna take a while.
Because like I wasn't gonna buy one, but I wanted to see it.
Yeah, that was my thing. Is I want to see what it looks like to know if I'm gonna buy it, because I might. But
because they didn't show it on the television, they just said go check out Pro Wrestling Tees or shop AEW.com, which just redirects to Pro Wrestling Tees.
Which needs to, if they need to stop.
If they can't, Pro Wrestling Tees is great because they have the direct-to-garment pressers. They can make things happen relatively quickly. If they are going to continue to be the shop for AEW, I think that they need to...
They're going to have to upscale everything.
Yeah, they need better servers because they're going to continue to crash like this.
Not necessarily. They need to be prepared for things like this, and this was very much probably a surprise. As well as they need to be more prepared for the cyber stuff, cyber shopping, but they also need to literally look at the rest of their business and how they do things, especially their shipping policies.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get blown out of the water, and you're going to lose a lot of business of people. Like, I'm not going to pay more shipping because I want to order 3 shirts.
Yeah, their shipping practices are outrageous. And I understand it's difficult for small businesses, but their shipping is outrageous.
It's difficult for small businesses, but the amount of business that they're doing, you can't call them a small business anymore.
Sure. Jericho then goes on to double down about the promo that he made about Cody's family. He then closes by saying that at Full Gear, he's going to, quote, beat the ever-loving shit, end quote, out of Cody.
And said shit, which was...
And said shit directly into the camera.
Wasn't bleeped? Nothing.
No, not TV-14, baby. They get one.
That's fair, but 10 years ago, TV-14, that would have been bleeped out.
Sure. TV-14 has changed. You've changed TV-14. I don't want to, because the popular thing for WWE apologists to get on and say is you don't need swear words in order to make the show compelling. And that's true. You don't. But having an adult man get up and say, I'm going to beat the shit out of you plays a lot more naturally than
I'm going to beat you up.
I'm going to beat the hell out of you even.
Or just, it's tone, inflection, and words, especially in this kind of an example, is like, yeah, you should be saying, I'm going to beat the shit out of him. Because that's what you need to be doing. You need to.
It doesn't need to happen every episode the same way. You know what I mean? But like being able to have that, to be able to go there, because an adult would not say,
"I'm going to beat
the crap out of you" or whatever.
No.
An adult probably wouldn't even say, "I'm going to kick your ass."
No, it's like, I'm going to beat the fuck out of you right now.
And they're not going to go there, right?
But you need to be that threatening and have that tone and that inflection. That word does spark a lot of, it sparks a lot of feelings in people, and the way, and especially that sentence and that phrase, it makes a mark. So here's the thing about TV-14, it's a great tool to have whether or not you use it, right? Yeah.
So you can still make a product that, for the most part, is great, and you can be like, oh, it takes more skill to make something compelling under that. It's like, yeah, but why do that if you don't have to? Especially if you're making a show aimed at the target male 18 to 34 or whatever it is demographic. Like, just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just say, like, you can have this chip on your shoulder or whatever, which is all fabricated. It's really just so that they can get advertisers to be more pleased with them and try to market the show to little children. But at the end of the day, having the ability to say some naughty words in wrestling, which is all about simulated violence, right? It's important to have that. Even if you use it or don't use it, it's nice to be able to be like, hey, I could.
You need that I can say whatever I want to attitude.
And to a certain extent, wrestling is about that feeling that anything can happen, right? And that's not there on a TVPG show because you know exactly what they can and can't do, basically. I mean, except for when WWE breaks the rules and says bitch, and then it's just like, well, why would you say that if you're constantly bragging about how PG you are, or whatever.
That was always the weird thing about that. Like, oh, this is the PG era. Like, why would you brag about that?
He then says that him and the Inner Circle are going to walk the streets of Baltimore with a little bit of the bubbly, which is great. Again, him working in these sort of almost rock-like catchphrases that he has now.
Would not really suggest that, having been to Baltimore. Not a good idea.
It's not the Big Easy or anything like that, but... next up is Jimmy Havoc versus Darby Allin. This match was announced via social media, and the winner would receive a title match against Jericho next week in Philly. Havoc has a pre-tape promo run during his entrance. It's classic masochist stuff, but I thought it was well delivered and fairly well edited as well. This match was great. Lots of psychology. Havoc focused on the arm and the hand and the fingers of Darby Allin. Darby managed to pull the win when he hit the over-the-top stunner, followed by a coffin drop that didn't exactly land correctly.
Yeah, and the camera angle kind of made it look worse, but...
It got enough to be okay.
It got the point across.
And Allin wins the match by pinfall. I thought it was a good match. It wasn't as good as his match with Shima was, but... I enjoyed it for what it was. Generally, the whole show this week, I thought the pacing was much better. We got to the main event. I was like, oh, fuck, it's main event time already? Jesus.
Yeah, same. I looked down at my phone and was like, oh, damn, it's 9:30. Okay, shit. I really enjoyed this match more than I thought I would. I like Jimmy Havoc. I think he's a great character. I've been warming up to Darby Allin this match and the match with Shima, as a little bit the match with Cody, but these two... And All Out, like, I'm very, very impressed with both of these performers, more so with Darby because he has so much upside. Kid does not give a fuck about his body at all.
Yeah.
But you know, it's okay. He's a good performer. He's getting a better look. He still needs to fix his ring gear, but the paint, the face paint is getting more like refined, so that it's. Okay, he's the guy who paints half of his face. That does crazy shit.
I agree with that. I think the Daisy Dukes and the leggings are still a problem, but I think he's going to get there.
Yeah.
Next up is a tag match: Britt Baker and Riho versus Emi Sakura and Bea Priestley. Jesus Christ, Riho is fucking tiny.
Yeah, that belt is it's still way too big for her. And
it hangs off of her at its tightest setting.
Yeah, and if you looked at the belts, the images, the still captures of the belts from All Out to Dynamite last week, they clearly had a smaller one made for Riho.
I wouldn't care to speculate on that, but
can see that
if you believe that to be the case, then
no,
okay.
You can see that it is.
Okay,
but it's still so big.
It's huge. It's huge on her. Like the back end of it is just hanging off of her. She's 95 fucking pounds, 98 pounds. Maybe. They said on the commentary.
Yeah,
that's
soaking wet with rocks in her pockets.
There's nothing wrong with her being tiny.
No, not at all. But like,
I wish her character was more pronounced, because that was the thing with Rey Mysterio. Like, Rey Mysterio is fucking tiny, but he also wears a mask and might be a superhero. So you can kind of be like, okay, there might be some sort of greater power within him or whatever. Riho just looks like a 98-pound Japanese girl.
She doesn't really have a character. That's the thing.
And that's her character so far, is that she's a 98-pound Japanese girl who for some reason is strong as fuck. Her character is that she started training when she was 8, but like that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Is that she's been doing this a long time and she's still young and she's fucking 98 pounds.
Chad is saying, it's like, yeah, the tutu outfit needs to go. Agreed. 100% agree. I just need more as a character than that for it to be like, okay, it makes perfect sense why this woman is
knocking people down.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't pay much attention during this match, really at all. Emi Sakura coming out trying to literally be Freddie Mercury. It's not going over. It's just dumb.
She did the same thing at Double or Nothing.
Yeah, but the reason I didn't mind it at Double or Nothing, that was a special thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like...
Yeah, now this is like her gimmick. And it's like to a greater extent than it's Christopher Daniels' gimmick, right?
Yeah, and Christopher Daniels isn't even going for a Freddie Mercury thing. He's just being crazy.
No, he definitely
Well,
is.
yeah, but it's not pronounced. It's not, I'm dressing...
I don't know. The stick hanging off the microphone, that's one person.
Okay, but it's not, I'm dressing...
There's exactly one person who's ever done that, so...
Fair. But he's a bald guy wearing, you know...
The paramilitary outfit, which is also kind of a Freddie Mercury thing. But yes, it's not so blatant that it's literally a cosplay like it is with Emi Sakura.
When you're literally wearing one of Freddie Mercury's outfits, your hair is cut very similar to his, and
it's a Wembley 86.
Yeah, outfit. Like come on. This match was very much the same as the Dark match, and it was more precedent and more in my mind of having watched Dark the day before. This is Britt Baker and B. Priestley trying to get over.
I thought this match was much better than the Dark match.
I didn't. It was those two, and they slotted in Riho and Emi because they making it different. The finisher looked better, and that's probably why I'm so critical about the B. Priestley and Britt Baker thing. Is like, if you got to do something to pay this off, especially with how poor Baker.
I'm just not feeling. I don't think it's been that much of a big deal for me personally, but it's just attacked me differently. I think
it's just how hard they're trying to push Britt to be the women's face of the company, and she was a cardboard cutout on commentary last week.
Yeah, she was pretty.
And then had a bad match. She didn't have a great match at Fight for the Fallen. Given she got a concussion in the middle of that, okay, fine. Her Double or Nothing match wasn't great. She didn't do much in the Battle Royale because she just ran out and beat the shit out of B. Priestley. Come on, you got to do something here to get people involved with you.
I think the women's division of AEW is having the same problem that we talked about football and the XFL having, where
all of the good women are everywhere else.
It kind of seems like all the good women are everywhere else, because we know that there are better, and not to talk shit about all the women performers in AEW, but it's definitely, if you look at the men's roster in this company versus the women's roster in the company, you know that the men's roster has a lot more deftly skilled performers on it than the women's roster.
And the men's roster is still kind of a little paper thin. If you're going singles only, it's paper thin.
Yes. And so when there are other women outside of WWE that they could have that would make that division big. And I think WWE is full of women that aren't good either.
There's a mixture.
There are women who are good on their shows. There are women who are great on their shows.
And then there
are women who are not very good on their shows. But there are women in Impact who are great. Taya Valkyrie, I think, is a great female wrestler. Blanchard.
Yeah,
Tessa Blanchard, I think, is a great female wrestler. There are great female wrestlers.
I was reading a thing today about, AEW needs to sign Tessa right now. And it's yeah, they might need to. It's not going to happen because they're going to have to pay her a fuckload of money because Impact paid her a fuckload of money. So she's going to expect that going forward, and whether or not she deserved it.
I think she's worth it for this division, because I think this division is having...
True.
I think we're beginning to see the tipping point where people are like, hey, how come a lot of these women are not very good?
It's more
in
of
the
just
ring
that Tessa probably does deserve that amount of money. Not yet.
Sure.
She deserves that amount of money in about 3 years when she's really honed and seasoned herself as a wrestler, not where she's still relatively new. Impact threw that big check out of her to get her away from Impact.
From AEW.
From AEW. From AEW and WWE. And yeah, that is what it is. So now if AEW wants her, they're going to be paying a lot of money, almost to the point where they're going to be matching what some of the men are getting paid. And yeah, this should be. It should be equal opportunity, equal pay. But there's a difference. There's still a difference.
And the unfortunate thing is, I think more than with the men's roster, AEW is really lucky in that some of the most marquee male wrestlers in the world, they were able to get. I don't think that they got the same case with female wrestlers, and I think a lot of the best female talent in the world, even people that I never would have expected to go over there, work there now. So
it's kind of,
Candice LeRae working over there is a big deal. All of those MMA women that went over there, the Joshi that they ended up getting are better and more notable Joshi than AEW has.
Yeah, and I mean you can tell very clearly AEW they spent a lot of time and a lot of effort to get their male roster. And then they, I hate to say it like this, they ran out of money to get the female roster. Maybe not.
I don't know if it's as much that case, because the male roster, they kind of lucked into everyone's deals being up at the same time, and they got their 4 biggest draws.
Right, but
in one
with the women, it's been like, okay, you had your opportunity, you really should have signed her, and you didn't.
Yeah. I mean, if I were them, I'd be looking at other avenues to get women. I would be looking at
just
trying to put together a deal with Stardom or WoW or someone like that, and being like.
But let's look at the women that were from All In until now. Mm-hmm. They missed a lot of opportunities. They missed Jordan Grace,
Ivelisse.
As far as we know, there was a lot of women in that Battle Royale who they should have signed immediately.
Yeah.
And then we have others like
Jordan Grace would kill this division.
And then
would kill everybody in this division.
And just imagine the match she would have with Nyla.
Yeah.
But then you look at it like, okay, you signed Sadie Gibbs, and she's been one of the first signings you have, and you've seen her exactly one time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really weird. We know that Kenny and Brandy are kind of heading the women's division, and it's interesting to see their handiwork on it. Of course, Tony is involved in that as well, as he's involved in anything in the company. But it would be interesting to see how much input they have on that, because right now I think they have a lack of viable stars, and I think it's entirely due to the fact that they don't really have
another good one, Scarlett Boudreaux.
Scarlett
Boudreaux had a damn good opportunity, right? Yeah. It was fucking wrapped in a bow for you.
They just had to slide in and get it.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. Next, we see them sort of that slow-mo, that they re-show that slow-mo footage from the park with the best friends from a few months back that they did for Road 2, I think. They then zoom out to Chuck and Trent at ringside being interviewed. And it seems like Chuck maybe hasn't seen the video before, because he is in love with it. It's like, that's the best video I've ever seen.
It's like, I don't think either of them knew that this video was actually filmed, because they were so shocked. It's like, and it could be just because, like, Chucky was like, yeah, man, it's awesome. And Trent's he was so high.
The interviewer asks if Private Party's upset over the Young Bucks has made them more or less confident heading into their match next week against SCU. Chuck says that if she wants to know how they feel, she shouldn't ask them. She should ask this guy. And then they separate to reveal Orange Cassidy sitting in a chair behind them. And he gives that lazy thumbs up to the camera, and the crowd just loses their shit. I think it's gonna be. I the upside for him
is so
with
high,
how the
dude.
crowd is reacting to him is so high with this gimmick, and I cannot wait for him to be a huge mainstream success for this company, and just all the fucking heat that's going to get from the people who hate his guts.
Yeah, dude. As long as we've talked about before, if they sell it right, dude, it's gonna.
He's great.
Just the spot he had in the match last week on Dark, where he climbs up slow as a sloth up to the top turnbuckle, stands up, puts his hands in his pocket, and then just falls over.
The lights go out here, which is confusing because I at least immediately thought the spooky perverts.
Yeah, and that was the funniest thing. And then like, oh, nope, you were wrong. You were very wrong.
No, it ends up being the chairman, Sean Spears, who is here for the next match as we go to commercial. We come back. Pac is on commentary for Mox versus Spears. Mox does this match in his NJPW gear, which is cool. I guess that's going to be what it is going forward.
Probably.
The barbed wire biker shorts that he's been wearing.
Unless he's just bringing the crazy man gear out for reasons, I'm good for this with that gear. It suits him a lot better, especially after all those years of wrestling in blue jeans.
Yeah, he's probably enjoying the breeze across his knees. You know what I mean?
Just being able to move.
Oh, he was wearing pajama jeans. He's
It doesn't
fine.
matter, dude. It still restricts your movement.
His entrance music is awesome.
It's on Spotify, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's dope, dude.
I'm gonna make an AEW playlist. It's gonna be that one, and then fucking Judas over and over.
Search search AEW on Spotify.
Yeah.
Hey, our podcast will come up.
Nice.
But also, there's a couple of like theme music playlists already, and that's both of those songs are on there as well as others that have been made their way to Spotify. It's good times.
It's awesome, dude. His fucking theme music fucked your girlfriend and drove away on a motorcycle.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's how fucking cool it
and
is,
you
dude.
you sat there and watched and you weren't mad.
You were like, hey,
Okay.
I can't compete with that. It's awesome. It's just badass music, man, and it comes on and I get hyped. I love it. And it's, I believe, the first time that we've heard that music.
Yeah,
And I think it's great.
he didn't have music at Fyter Fest because unsanctioned, and then we probably would have heard it at All Out, but oh well.
Pac's main talking point on commentary is that his win-loss record is better than both that of Darby Allin and Jimmy Havoc, which was a hot topic of discussion in our Discord since the match was announced on social media earlier in the week, which is true. The reason why they got it is because that's the match they wanted to book was Darby and Jericho, right? But I guess the justification is that Darby had wins over bigger stars, although that's not true. I think it's more that he has been in the company for a much shorter amount of time. But
Yeah, it's because Pac's been in the company essentially about 6 weeks, while Darby's been here since pretty much the beginning.
right.
And all of the shit
and I
that
think
happened.
that's the bigger discussion that needs to happen with the win-loss record thing is like win-loss records are going to be a factor in how things are booked, a big factor in how things are booked, and a big justification in how things are booked when they want to use it. It's not going to be the only thing considered.
The other thing to think about is like, yeah, Pac is 2-0. He won his last match last week, and his two matches, while both have been great, were not as long as one of Darby's matches.
Sure.
The draw he had with Cody was amazing. His the Cracker Barrel crackdown,
Clash.
I like my name better. Also amazing, and he put forth a hell of an effort. And then that match with Shima was like, yeah, he's 1-1-1, but you know.
Sure, but if you look purely at the win-loss records, Pax is unquestionably better.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
Again,
it's going to be one of the factors. That's all it was ever going to be. It's on them for not being clear about that, as they should have been. They were like, wins and losses are going to matter.
Well, it's
But
like
wins
it's
and
like
losses
Cody,
are not going to be the only thing.
Well, it's like Cody said, and Tony said it too. It's like the quality of the win matters, which is it's the college football answer. So it's such bullshit. Like when they're determining bowl games, well, they went 14-0, but they shit whipped a bunch of Division II schools, so that's not really worthy of being in the national championship. Like, no, fuck you, man.
Yeah, those are the matches you gave them. What did you want them
what
to
do you
do?
expect? So that's the reasoning there. It's like, but it's also like, if Pac had been in the company since Double or Nothing, as he was supposed to have been, different story.
Sure. If Pac had been in the company as he was supposed to have been, a lot of things would have ended up
At the same
happening
point, He was money on commentary, dude.
He was great, dude. I loved it.
Just him just shit talking with Tony the whole time. Oh.
And it was a fucking great singles match.
Yeah.
Really one of the better, probably the best singles match we've seen on TV.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And
Tully is doing great as a manager, too. Moxley wins via the paradigm shift.
Dude, Tully coming out of nowhere and fucking just spearing Moxley.
While it was behind the ref's back. Yeah, it was
dude,
nuts.
an old man, someone that old should not move that fast.
As Moxley celebrates, Kenny Omega steps onto the stage. Over his shoulder lay a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire. In his opposite hand is a broom in similar clothing.
That was so weird.
Omega throws the bat at Moxley's feet and begins, just begs for a fight, right? Just then, Pac runs up from behind, nails Omega in the back of the head with a chair. That's a chair shot to the head. Note it.
I beat you to it.
Mox gets in Pac's face and then forces him to leave, basically. He backs down. He gets out of there. Omega lays prone on the ground before Mox, the barbed wire bat in his hand. Moxley pauses, considering the opportunity he has here, and then throws the bat to the ground and exits. And that's the end of that segment. We go to commercial. We come back for the main event. But I thought this is, of course, seems like it's leading to an unsanctioned match of some type between Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega. Whether or not Pac's also involved in that, I do not know.
If it does, someone will die.
If Pac also be involved would be interesting, but I kind of feel like we need these two to go at it.
This match needs to happen because this is the match we were supposed to have. Mm-hmm. So put Pac in there later.
Yeah.
Absolutely do that triple threat, but this one right now, they got to pay this off.
Yeah, or have Pac be the sort of TV program for these guys, like put Pac and Moxley together before Full Gear at some point. Because he's
absolutely
already fought Kenny, right? So
and that also that builds the drama more. It's like, oh, Mox beat Pac, in theory, Mm-hmm. Why?
Although I don't think he will, because they've really been pushing that his win-loss record is
crazy
for the last 2 years or whatever, where he's been beaten once or whatever it is.
Absolutely, but that's another way you can build that story. It's like, well, Moxley beat Pac or took Pac to a draw, so you couldn't.
Main event time: Dustin Rhodes and the Hangman Adam Page versus Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho. Dustin fucking kicks ass during this match, dude.
Oh yeah. Dustin came out just with all gears rolling and just beat the shit out of everybody. This is, I said this in Discord last night, this is the best I've ever seen Dustin wrestle.
And there was a post-show promo from Cody where he basically said as much, where he was like, he's doing better now than he's ever been. And I agree. He came out and I was like, wow, he's like I've never seen from him wrestling wise, in terms of like his flow is amazing, and he's like moving as fast as the young guys are moving in there. It's awesome, dude.
In some instances faster than the young guys. He was literally moving as fast as like luchadors were last night.
I thought everyone did great, but I thought he really stood out.
Yeah.
Jericho and Guevara get the win thanks to interference from Hager. Then the beatdown starts on Dustin. Hangman and Hagar go after it. Hangman throws a chair at Hager's face, and they brawl out to the back. Lights go out. They come up with Cody in the ring. Santana and Ortiz come down to even the odds, or odd the evens, more likely. Then in slides MJF with a steel chair. Heavy tease on the MJF heel turn. Again, every time they're going to do that.
That was like, okay.
It's gonna happen. And it didn't happen. It was great. And MJF, of course, with his expressions, really makes it seem like it's gonna happen. And then friendship prevails every time. I think it's great. Then MJF takes a fucking brutal code breaker from Jericho. It's down for
that one was stiff. One thing I will say about the end of the match, Jericho really botched the Judas Effect last night, like hard.
I didn't think. I watched it back twice and I didn't feel like it was botched at all.
It may have been the camera angle, but it looked real. It didn't look good. It didn't look as smooth or as good as it's looked the past few times.
Sure.
And it, like I said, I think it was really the camera angle where you can see it was him hitting, Dustin with his side, not with the elbow.
Yeah. Yeah. Not saying you're wrong, just that it didn't stick out that much to me as being botched in any way. Jericho starts exiting. Down comes Darby Allin, skateboarding down the ramp to attack Jericho. Allin beats the shit out of Jericho with his skateboard. Show goes out on like a faction versus faction face-off thing with Jericho talking shit till the end. He says, quote, "Darby, I'll see you next week in Philadelphia. It's your funeral, bitch," end quote. And we end the show. Man, I thought it was a great continued episode, sort of a double down on what we're going to see on All Elite Wrestling. A ton of wrestling. There was a little bit of promoing, but not a lot. They continued with the great lights and production, and I think we're going to continue to see these sort of values moving forward, and I'm super excited about it. I'm super excited about next week. The ratings this week,
I will say that they need to be a little careful of just continuing to do beatdowns at the end of the show.
Here's the thing. I loved it both of these times, but you're right. Not
It's
every show
you
needs
can
to end
do.
that way, but that is something that people fucking love about wrestling is when the locker room explodes, and that's the end of the show,
Sure,
right?
you just don't want it to be the predictable thing of
Right,
like, okay,
right.
the last match ended, so when are they coming out? When are they coming out?
Yeah,
You gotta
yeah.
you have to keep the surprise there, and I think that's something that they plan to do. But that's my tiny criticism. Like, don't make this every week.
I don't think that they will. I think it's with these first two episodes there. It makes sense for what they're doing, where they're trying to show that everybody's interwoven with everybody else,
And you gotta get those pops. You gotta get people invested for sure.
The ratings this week, NXT did 790,000 viewers, which is down from last week's 1,000,006 viewers. I think that's including something else, because that seems higher than we had reported before. AEW did 1,018,000 viewers, which is down from 1,409,000 viewers. So we both went down. It's understandable why both shows went down with the competition that they had, with AEW not having a premiere this time. Losing over 300,000 viewers in one episode is tough, but it's not surprising considering the factors.
It's still, in this day and age, that is a baller number.
It's a good number for basic cable.
Yeah,
it's a good number
for wrestling on basic cable. Yeah,
yeah. They still beat NXT by a hefty margin. I think they'll continue to beat NXT by a hefty margin. Mostly, I think, because NXT is kind of too available. It's available on Hulu. I think you can watch the replays on the network. It doesn't. Because of the small size of the venue, unless you're a diehard into NXT, it doesn't feel like appointment television to the same extent that AEW does.
Yeah.
And I understand bias because this is the show, but
there's the other thing that is like, NXT, they went balls to the wall first week out.
Yeah.
I mean, not really first week out, but the first week of competition, they went balls to the wall, and it didn't work. And there's only down to go from there. You cannot peak over that mini takeover they had.
No, and I think they need to get the fuck out of Full Sail. I think as long as they're in Full Sail,
it's hurting them so bad.
I do not think that they will be able to remain competitive if they continue to do that show from Full Sail, because the whole switch between things that everybody was stoked to do, switching from AEW's production to NXT is depressing because it's so much smaller.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you're looking at a 15,000 person sold out arena, maybe not full capacity, but still sold out, to a 3,000 people ish.
Yeah.
That's not great. There's the benefit of being in Full Sail. If that's their home arena, they can have everything as tightly tuned as they need it to for every aspect of the show, and it makes a difference. It really does. But at this point, it's not enough of a difference to show that this is competition or this is something that can continue on, because you're looking at a dramatically smaller room and your crowd is dead.
The show just feels smaller.
That's the other thing, is your crowd in NXT and at Full Sail doesn't give a shit about the wrestling. They are trying to get themselves over.
Yeah, there was a time when they were a really good crowd. I don't think that time is still.
No. Because now that the crowd is just trying to get themselves over and start their own chants and do whatever the fuck they want to. And
it's a lot of the same people returning all the time.
Yeah,
too.
that's the thing. That's why wrestling and WWE as well works, is being in a different city every night. You have a hot crowd every night, because this is not something you get to go do every single night or every single week. It's a special event. It's a special treat. So when you get to go, you're really excited to go do this. So your emotions are already high, and then when you start seeing a really good show, you're amping up on that. When you're in the same building night after night after night, and as well as that crowd is used to doing the TV tapings once a month, now it's weekly. It's gonna hurt you.
Well, especially if the company you're competing with is doing it the other way, right? So it'll be interesting to see. And I'm not saying that there won't be weeks where NXT might pull ahead. That it might be the case.
It's fine.
I think it would take a lot for them to do it, but it's going to happen, I believe. But
yeah, it will, but we're not the guys who are going to sit here and say like, yeah, AEW is going to win every single week because this is like the Monday Night Wars. It's going to be 57 weeks in a row, whatever. It's like, no, there'll be ups, there'll be downs. It's all fine. It's the long race, not the short term.
And for those that are wondering, we will continue to talk about ratings on the show as long as we have them before we tape or whatever. It's not going to be a huge part of this show because I honestly don't think it's going to be much of a battle.
That, and we really don't know until about maybe an hour and a half tops before we record.
Yeah, before recording. We will talk about the Dark matches next week after they air on Dark, but the word is that Janela and Omega had an amazing match.
Just the shit I've seen from Reddit. Oh my God.
Next week on AEW Dynamite is Best Friends versus SCU in the tournament, Darby Allin versus Chris Jericho for the title, Riho versus Britt Baker for the title, and Lucha Bros versus Jurassic Express, which is their tournament match. Go Lucha Bros.
I'm happy with either team winning. I think they may add one more, but they may not, since you have two title matches. Either way, solid card.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a great week of AEW wrestling, and we're going to be here to talk about it on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and podcast services everywhere. Subscribe, review, give us 5 stars, just like Meltzer. It makes us feel so sweet. Jonathan, how sweet?
Too sweet, buddy.
Facebook.com/Seeing the Elite, Twitter @Seeing the Elite. If you want to join our Discord server, if you want to be in with everyone talking, we had an absolute blast this week during AEW Dynamite. Everybody talking back and forth. It was wild in there. tinyurl.com/Seeing the Elite. If you're unfamiliar with Discord, it's like a chat room, but with a bunch of friends in there, and
it's like Facebook Messenger.
Yeah. I mean, kind of. Yeah. But once again, if you want to become one of our best friends, one of our inner circle, head to patreon.com/Seeing the Elite and subscribe to the boys. Thanks to all of you who have watched the show live. I don't have the chat up. Jonathan has the chat up, but thank you guys for watching live.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And after we stopped the recording, I had a quick thing for you guys. But thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. It's been fun, and we hope to see you guys every week.
Yes. Thanks to our patrons, Adam Dyson, Alejandro Diaz, Bill Lavalette, Chris Genro, Ayal Avoth, Keith Kuzulno, Mikael, and Merman. for helping us out this month through Patreon. You really do help make this show better and better every week. Other than that, Jonathan, do you have anything more for these people before we go?
No.
Neither do I. We'll be back next week with another enormous episode of Seeing the Elite, an AEW podcast. Thank you so much. Go out and change the world.